Everybody to the Put on Fantasy Football podcast. I'm your host Dwayne Douglas, along with Austin Perez. Hope you listened last week. We had some good notes for you last week, and by the downloads, I can definitely tell that you guys did listen last week. So we definitely appreciate that. Austin, how you doing today?
Doing good. Glad to be back. Can't believe we're already heading into week three.
It goes
Um,
by. It goes by quick. As soon as the NFL season starts, it's Christmas time before you know it.
yeah,
So
down.
let's go to let's see. Let's look at the Cardinals here. Cardinals obviously have a lot of optimism there because of the 2-0 start. They have a quarterback who is just almost impossible to tackle, and he gets the ball to everybody involved here. Kenyon Drake versus the Lions looks like a good matchup here. The Lions are in disarray as Matt Patricia further puts them in for the number one pick in the draft.
Yeah, the Lions look like a mess. I mean,
Yeah,
everywhere you
so
slice it up. But I think this is a great matchup for Kenyon Drake. I mean, we haven't seen the big breakout game from him yet. I think this is the week we are going to see that. Just going off last week, 95 yards on 20 carries, two receptions. I wish he was a little more involved in the passing game at this point forward.
he has
But
that
the Lions
ability too. So
he does, but the Lions are ranked dead last in run defense, and we saw what Cleveland, or excuse me, what they gave up last week, 204 yards per game into week three. Expect Kenyon Drake to be a big factor for Arizona.
yeah, last time I checked, that wasn't good. Last time I checked,
No, no.
that was not good. Um, I am not a Miles Sanders guy. Like, why is everybody like going nuts for Miles Sanders here? I'm not a Miles Sanders guy.
I, I can see where people get the upside for Miles Sanders. I mean, he's really like, what are we down to with the Eagles? He's their only offensive option, it seems like.
Yes, that seems like
Carson Wentz isn't looking good. I'm sure we'll touch on that later, hopefully. But I just think it's the volume for Miles Sanders. 20 carries last week, 95 yards and a touchdown. He's also a great pass catcher out of the backfield. And we just saw his backup not get too many snaps last week. So I think it's more the volume as opposed to the overall talent from Miles Sanders.
yeah. I have to agree with you on that one. It looks like I mean I always thought that Melvin Gordon was going to come into this situation and take that job. He's definitely the Broncos' bell cow back here. What do you think about his matchup against the Buccaneers?
You know, this is an interesting one. I went back and forth throughout the week because, believe it or not, Tampa Bay is the fourth best against the run 2 weeks in. And that's saying a lot. They've played Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara,
Hmm.
arguably two of the top five best running backs in the league. Lindsey did not, or did practice today, excuse me, but is still most likely doubtful. The only thing that concerns me in this game is I think the Bucks could end up just running away with this early with Driscoll at quarterback from Denver, and then we'll see Denver be playing catch up and just kind of airing the ball out a little more. I still think he's a good low end RB2 option this week. You still got to start him. There's
Yeah,
nobody else in that offense.
yeah.
So
I was saying to somebody the other day, and I said it on the Put on Waivers podcast, that is it crazy that I've been more impressed with the Bucks defense this year than their offense because their defense has been, it was spectacular. I thought the first game of the year it wasn't really indicative. That score wasn't indicative of how they played against the Saints. They played pretty well, and Winfield has been a beast in that secondary. He's just smacking
yeah,
people. So
everywhere. He's been everywhere.
he's been everywhere. Todd Gurley, this is. I mean, are we gonna keep going with the Todd Gurley thing? Like, I mean, Todd Gurley is not gonna be. I mean, they got Ito Smith, they got some other people there. Do you feel like? I mean, this is like kind of the last coming. These next weeks are the last weeks we kind of trust Todd Gurley to do anything.
You know, this one is hard for me. I don't know if it's just because I have him on my team. I'm a little more optimistic for Todd Gurley going forward. The volume has been there. It's just if we're looking at the numbers, he's RB11 in usage up to week three. He's RB36 in production. He's done nothing with the volume that he's been given in that offense. And we're seeing Atlanta falling behind, or a lot of games are blowing leads. They're just not looking good fundamentally. So he's not getting a lot of opportunities to really milk down that clock and bang out those tough yards throughout those late quarters. So I do think this week he's a solid matchup. Chicago's 10th in run defense. Um, but, going forward, I think the volume is something to just be optimistic about.
Wentz, you had some interesting stats the other day when we talked about Wentz. How I mean, he's making Winston look like he's a star. And maybe the Eagles should maybe the Eagles should have got Winston to be their backup quarterback.
Uh, at this point, I mean, what more can you say? The numbers speak for themselves.
He's bad.
Four interceptions, most in the league. 8 sacks, tied for most in the league. 20 off-target throws. That's with a clean pocket. His offensive line actually is ranked fifth in pass protection time. There's just no excuse. I'm tired. I'm tired of hearing. I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm a proud Cowboys fan, and I'm tired of hearing every year Wentz being a better quarterback than Dak, deserving his money. It's there's just no argument to be made. He's looked terrible.
Yeah, I mean he has been bad. He's been bad in every way, and people. And I'm glad you brought up the clean pocket stuff because so many people, the Dan Orlovsky's people of the world, like to make it seem like the building is crumbling around him, but it's not. He has the opportunity to be good, and when you have the opportunity to be good and you're not good, then you're just bad. And I don't think I don't think it's going to change anytime soon, right?
No, I don't. And part of the reason is where's the receiving core for Philadelphia? Like Zach Ertz has just been abysmal to this point as well as far as his standards go. Jalen Rager's out again with a thumb injury. Now we're looking at, I heard, week 10 for Jalen Rager, who's hasn't been able to see the field, and there's just no outside threats for him. I don't know what Wentz can do to be better with the situation that he's in right now, unfortunately, in Philadelphia. There's a lot of red spots for that team at the moment.
You spoke about I think we all know you're a Cowboy fan and LSU Tiger fan, but
Go Tigers.
of course, fight on, fight on. SC. Lamb, do you feel like I mean he's gonna solidify himself here, and then maybe Gallup is a guy who you don't want to cut, but you think Gallup is a guy who's gonna continue his numbers is gonna continue to go down because Lamb is really gonna burst on the scene here, right?
Yeah, this is what I was expecting from Lamb coming out of college. You're talking about a guy who averaged 26 yards per catch at Oklahoma. That's per catch. Just throw him the ball. He's getting you
Yeah.
26 yards, right? We've seen him be used in the slot a lot. 116 of his 127 snaps have been from the slot. He's been gaining confidence, I think, as you see these first 2 weeks from week 1 to week 2. He's been that much better. I think we're going to continue to see him accelerate throughout the year, and I think he's going to be a solid 2 option for that Dallas offense. I don't necessarily know if Gallup is a cut right now. I think he's more of a stash and is going to be a flow and flex play until we see just some relevant production from him.
Matt Ryan, huge production. Do you feel like going into the game with the Bears? Do you feel like the Bears? It's either this game's gonna go either way. The Bears are gonna dominate it defensively, or it's gonna be a back and forth, 30 point, 40 point game. Which one do you see? Do you think that with all those weapons, even if Julio Jones doesn't play, it seems like Gage and Ridley are stars anyway. So I mean, so the Falcons should be able to move the football, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think Matt Ryan's been, honestly, his numbers have been great coming into week 3. I have him in one of my other leagues. He's been solid for me. 33, 31 as far as points go. He's got 6 touchdowns on the year, but as you mentioned, he's got a lot of targets. He's starting to open up the ball too. With that being said, I think the Falcons will be able to get ahead early in this one and kind of hopefully get to the script of what they were looking to do last week with Dallas, get ahead and lean on the running game to close out the game. And I think this is going to be a breakout game for Julio Jones, honestly. He can't get any farther up than what he did last week with the 2 reception game and 24 yards. Russell Gage, I think, is a plug and play. I got to see sustainability from him before I can plug him into that wide receiver 2 spot. But yeah, I think there'll be a decent amount of points scored.
And Julio Jones is a game times decision
Yep.
for this game, so you have to have that phone right next to you as soon as for us out here on the West Coast, 9:55 or or 12:55 on the East Coast as far as that goes. Cooper Cup. Looks like Robert Woods is becoming more of an established one here, and Cooper Cup is kind of like almost like that, almost playing like a little bit of a not he doesn't play tight end, but kind of like third down, move the chains kind of guy. What about his skills against the Bills?
Well, we could talk all day about how great the Bills secondary is, right? I think they got one of the better secondaries in the league. You're right about Cooper Kupp. I think you hit the nail on the head. Robert Woods is definitely that number one receiver for them, and he just got paid. I think it's well deserved. And Kupp is like that security blanket. I think he's a lower end flex play week in and week out. He is going to be matched up against Teron Johnson against Buffalo. Fun stat on Teron Johnson, he's actually allowing a 74% catch rate to receivers in the slot. So you could see a decent amount of receptions for Kupp. I don't necessarily know if that's going to turn into big time yards.
Let's see here. We have Roethlisberger versus getting some quarterbacks here. Roethlisberger going against the Texans here.
Yeah. What is there to say about the Texans defense? They've given up a lot of points the last 2 weeks.
Nothing.
But exactly. Here's a fun fact, though. I honestly came across this today and I was shocked. They're third best pass defense in the league to week 3, despite all the points they've given up, right? 190 yards per game through the air. Big Ben's completing 68% of his passes for 7.4 yards per attempt. That's an abysmal yards per attempt. I think he's a decent play. I don't think you start him, though, if you have somebody like I was a high on Minshew this week, or if you have a Josh Allen there to plug in. I think he's the better play. I just don't see big numbers from Big Ben this week, and I think the Steelers defense is going to dominate and rely on the run game, and you're not going to see too many big time over the air throws for Big Ben late in this game.
I think that this is going to be a close one. I think when you get into even when your team is not playing well, you have that pride factor when you are 0-2. And if you don't win that third game, then it could be a long, like 5-11, 4-12 situation there in Texas. So and that quarterback has a lot of pride. So I think in last week's game, despite losing Locke, that game was close last week against the Broncos. So yeah, close game there, I think.
I could see the game going both ways, honestly, but I just trust Pittsburgh's defense a little more in this situation.
Makes sense. Let's see here. Allen versus the Rams. The Bills Rams. I'm not sure what these guys in the TV world thought that game was going to be before the season started, but that looks like a damn good game right now. I mean, you want to sit down and eat some popcorn and watch that one.
Yeah, both these teams look great, and it's funny seeing Jalen Ramsey. I don't remember if you remember he was quite vocal about Josh Allen's talent a few years ago, and he kind of reverted on those comments today, giving them props, and it's well deserved. Josh Allen has played great.
He put in a lot of work. You could tell he put in a lot of work. Good job.
417 yards, 4 touchdowns last week, arguably his best game as a starter. I think he's a must play this week. There's nothing to me that says to sit Josh Allen to this point. He leads the NFL in passing through 2 weeks, 70% completion percentage. You got to play him until he shows me anything other than the production he's shown these last couple of weeks. You got to play him.
Yeah, and you and I talked about coaching, right? And he has been a guy who is definitely took to that coaching and played very well this year. Let's see here. You got some sleepers for me in this week 3 of 2020.
I think there's a couple obvious ones, right? I mean, we could say McKinnon just because everybody on the 49ers went down last week. You
But
know,
yeah, by all accounts, he's the only one standing, I think.
he's the last guy standing, right? We know when McKinnon's healthy, he's been a productive back. We haven't seen him healthy, 100% healthy since he was in Minnesota, but he was a great complementary back to Dalvin Cook when he was there. I think he's going to see the volume, like you said. They don't have anybody else to really lean on. Another guy I think you could plug in. I actually have two, and they're on the same team, and it's in the same game. That's on the other end, Slayton and Golden Tate. Um, with Sterling Shepard going down, that opens the window for those guys.
Hmm.
I think they could see some sort of production. But I kind of contradict myself, and I see this being a lower scoring game. So I'm going to give the edge to McKinnon as far as a higher upside sleeper here.
All right. So we do have a question from the text line, real quick, about Tyler Higbee versus the Bills. They want to know if is he a solid play against the Bills or was last week just a flash?
No, I like Tyler Higbee going forward this year. I do. He looks great. He looks healthy. He looks like he's getting to understand the playbook a lot better this year, and he's thriving with the more vertical offense that this Rams are displaying. Um, I think you got to play him against the Bills. There's just not a lot of tight end depth right now in general for fantasy football.
Uh-huh.
You're going to be limited in options. There was some good waiver wire pickups this week for tight ends. You snagged the one I wanted, of course, right?
Gotcha.
But yeah, you got to play. You got to play Higby.
And one more question about Juno Smith. Juno Smith from the Titans, solid performer so far this year. They've thrown the ball a lot more than I think people thought they would be doing this year. He looks like a solid guy to kind of just if he's your tight end one, you can live with that, right?
Sure. Like again, going back to kind of this production we've seen the 2 weeks, the Titans have been airing the ball out a decent amount more than I thought. Going into the season, they're going to lean heavy on Derrick Henry. Tannehill will get 20 to 25 chances a game to throw the ball, but it's been a nice balance for that offense, and I can see him thriving going forward.
So we got sleepers. We got some sleepers. Guys who you got to sit this week, and give me a couple of guys you have to start this week.
So must starts. We'll start with there. Jonathan Taylor against the Jets. Okay, he looked great last week. We know
I
Malcolm
tried so
Brown's
hard.
banged
I
up.
tried so hard to get Jonathan Taylor in the draft.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah. No,
That's
we
so
know how
hard.
talented that line is. There's no debating how talented that Colts
Yeah.
line is. You could plug almost any running back in the league, and I think they'd thrive there. And he's playing the Jets. You play anybody against the Jets, and you sit everybody on the Jets. It's that
J
simple.
Jets.
Yeah. I think Miles Sanders is another must start, just because going back to volume, right? The Eagles can't afford to go 0-3. They cannot. If they go 0-3, you're going to hear the Jalen Hurts train pretty hard in Philadelphia. Um,
You might hear the kid from LSU. I mean Clemson's train if you.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they could tank it out for Trevor Lawrence,
Yeah.
really. But
Seriously.
Amari Cooper, another must start. Everybody on Dallas and Seattle is a must start this week. Both
Yeah.
these teams have just put up a ton of points. They've aired the ball out. Seattle, I believe, is last in the league in yards per game as far as passing goes. They've given up the most. If correct me if I'm wrong. But Cooper kind of shined last week. 6 receptions for 100 yards. He caught that bomb, the one-handed bomb. You got to play everybody in this game.
Did you see that Russell Wilson has 9 touchdown passes and 11 incompletions?
Yeah,
Oh my God. Jeez.
he's been playing great. He's front runner for MVP 2 weeks
I
in, but
mean, my goodness, but I mean, I can't say that because the East Coast media, if they don't watch football, if they're on West Coast players, so they don't. I mean, he's
yeah.
never come close to any of that stuff, man. I tell you, that's
Uh,
just nuts. Any other tidbits you want to give to the fans? We got a couple. Nice to see a couple of you. Please continue to text us questions too as well. That we definitely appreciate those as well. So,
Yeah,
any
keep sending us in those questions, man.
yeah,
That's what we're here to give you advice. I mean, just a couple, I think, off the top sits, if you want to go over those. Kenny
yeah.
Galladay as a sit. He's coming back from injury. That I understand, but Arizona's a top 10 pass defense up to this point in the season. I think it's gonna be a lower scoring game, and I don't know if Galladay's 100% healthy. You sit him on the first week coming back, and then you see his production going forward. Tom Brady, another sit. If you've got any other quarterback, I think you sit Tom Brady.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
I cut him. I cut him. I can't anymore.
yeah. It's gonna be a slow paced game, and the Bucks got that running game momentum in week 2. They saw flashes of what Fournette can do and what their offense can produce leaning on the run game. So I don't see that differing this week for Tampa Bay.
All right, got two more. Got two more from that. I just checked the DMs. We got a couple more questions in there real quick, and then we'll head off. Um, Will Fuller against the Steelers, and then I would think Marquise Brown would be a good play against the Chiefs, but you let me know if I'm crazy.
Well, there's nowhere but up for Will Fuller, excuse me, after last week, but he laid a goose egg, right? So Brandon Cooks showed some somewhat production, but I think going back to your tidbit on the Texans, they got to win this game. They got to be
Yeah, they
they
have.
got to be competitive, and I think Will Fuller is another one of those guys who prides itself on his competitiveness. I think you play Will Fuller in this one. Play him as a low end 2 flex. I think is a decent flex play.
Mhm.
Uh, and then yeah, Marquise Brown. Everybody, this is another game. Everybody on the Ravens and the Chiefs, you got to play. I
Yeah.
see this, being one of the higher scoring games of the week. Um, Lamar Jackson didn't have the best game stat wise last week, but the Ravens have looked dominant, and we know how good the Chiefs are offensively. So
Yeah.
play everyone.
I got one for me, and somebody asked me about the Raiders running back situation. He's Josh Jacobs is questionable. I would
Yeah,
you kind of got to hold on. I think you got to hold on. Obviously, you're not letting go of Josh Jacobs, but before you go grab Booker or Jalen Richard, if you have the space to do it, go ahead and do it just to see if he doesn't play. Also, Ruggs is out, so Ruggs is not playing on Sunday. But the thing about the Raiders is as Derek Carr showed last week, with 11 different receivers catching the ball, he doesn't have one guy. Waller is the bell cow, no question. But if you don't have Waller, I don't know if anybody else is worth picking up because he just spreads it out.
no, you made a good point there. I mean, he distributes the ball a lot. But going back to Josh Jacobs, everything that I've heard up to this point, his hip injury is load management, rep management, and practice.
Oh,
I
like
fully
Kawhi,
expect him
like
expect him
Kawhi,
to play.
like
Yeah,
Kawhi.
right. Exactly.
Hopefully, hopefully it works out better for
Yeah.
for Jacobs and Kawhi. All
No,
right.
don't get me started, right?
Okay, so we can go. Both of us can go on the Clippers all day and all night because we cannot stand that team. So
Absolutely not.
shout out to my man Belief who makes who made these T-shirts. If you didn't get one, I mean, sweatshirt's too bad because it's only limited release. Everybody does that now. It's limited release. You don't get it, and when you get it, it's too bad for you. All
Yeah.
right, put on waivers podcast. Put on Fantasy Football Podcast. Austin, we'll see you next time. Peace.
Thanks, Dwayne. See you.